Hi everyone, my name is philo, and as you might be able to tell, I'm not a politician, I'm also not a professional speaker. But I wanted to be here to tell my story, to encourage people like me. They too can be a light in the darkness. With action now, we can make a better future for generations to come. I'm a Jewish woman from New York, where I was a Democrat. But since October 7th, I've officially changed parties to be a registered Republican. Thank you. A great man once said, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party left me." That man was Republican President Ronald Reagan. Many people feel this way today. I'm not alone, and I want them to know they are not alone. I always considered myself middle of the road, and I would say my values have not changed. I'm the same woman, but my priorities are different, and I no longer recognize today's Democratic Party. I was, and still am, pro-choice. That's not changing. I'm entirely possibly a pro-choice Republican, and I know I'm not alone in this. But my number one concern is our safety and the sanctity of our democracy. We must preserve and protect our Western democratic values here and abroad. Without that, we can't fight for any rights. I know in my heart, President Donald Trump did and will again implement politics that will strengthen this country and keep us safe. In the meantime, I'm incredibly worried if Kamala gets the chance, she will put our very democracy and our lives at serious risk. We all know what happens on October 7th, the horror of such an attack and massacre, and then we watch the entire world so quickly turn against Israel. The media gaslit us. They gaslit the only Jewish state. I had always thought that the talk about fake news was exaggerated, that was fake, until I saw it play out so blatantly on an issue I cared so much about. And then thousands of pro-Hamas and useful idiots flooded the streets, my streets, the streets of New York City. The final straw for me was on November 14th of last year. I was blessed to attend the March of Israel in DC. It was amazing. Yes, if you were there, it was amazing. It was an incredible day with so many Jews and allies from across the country who came together to express our solidarity in the most positive way. It felt incredible. We had done it. We were united, part of something big, part of something undeniable. We had made history. When we got back on the buses, the news came, though. Biden had decided on that day of all days to announce giving Iran access to $10 billion in funds via the removal of sanctions. How could he not have heard us? It was the biggest slap in the face. Shortly after, I got that change form for my voter registration. I sent it in, and I formally became a Republican. Thank you. Anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel are now open, and horribly they're allowed. It is clear that the Democratic Party has moved incredibly far left. The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has betrayed us. They've betrayed Israel, and they've betrayed the Jewish community. And if Kamala Harris herself gets the chance, she would be even worse. The more I see, the more I know we need President Donald Trump back in the White House. But this isn't just about Jews, and it's not just about Israel. This is an issue that impacts all Americans. This is truly about the free world as we know it. This is truly about good versus evil. This is about freedom versus tyranny. This is about democracy versus totalitarianism. civilized versus uncivilized, life and creation versus death and destruction, love versus hate. We must stand together and fight to save what we love, what we know is good, and what we know is right. For the millions of people, our people, and this great nation. We must stand strong for what we believe in. We must stand together. We cannot expect the world to have our backs. They have shown us they don't. We must have our own, and as Trump himself said so bravely, fight, fight, fight. In closing, vote Trump 2024. Thank you. God bless Israel. Am Yisrael Chai. God bless the Jewish people. And God bless America.
I'm going to do some freestyle until the teleprompter is up. As we wait for the teleprompter, let me say that I'm probably the first one to ever address the Republican-Jewish coalition by stating, my name is Shabbos Kestenbaum and I'm a Democrat. Thank you. Are the Democrats sabotaging this? I think that's what... Again, as we wait for the teleprompter, I guess I'll speak from the heart. I'm a registered Democrat. I've only voted for Democrats. My congressman is Richie Torres, and I will continue to vote for him. I did not, yes, please clap for him. I did not abandon the Democratic Party. As was just said and stated by Ronald Reagan, the Democratic Party abandoned me. My values have not changed. I believe, hold your booze, in a Green New Deal. I believe in a $15 minimum wage. I believe in a woman's right to choose their reproductive health. But I also know, as someone who is a Democrat, that those values, the values of safety and security and democracy, and a fight for the Jewish people are not the values of the Democratic Party. And with that, I'll start my speech now that the teleprompter is up. I'm not like Trump. I can't wing it. Maybe on Fox News, but not here. I'm a registered Democrat. Yeah, we could clap for that at the RJC. And I've only voted for Democrat. Not wanting to vote for a Republican this year, I've remained committed to changing the Democratic Party from within. I deliberately attended the Democratic National Convention with an open mind. Although protesters outside of the DNC harassed Chicago police officers, although they waved Hezbollah flags, although they held signs reading, "We stand with Hamas," and they threatened to beat up Jewish counter-protesters, President Biden chose not only to condemn this behavior, but used his speech to announce, quote, that the protesters outside on the streets, they have a point. The day after my speech at the Republican National Convention, I told the national media, I told Democratic Party officials, my party, that I and other progressive Jewish students who are fighting for their civil rights on college campuses would be honored to give a similar address at the Democratic Convention, where we would feel more at home. No offer was ever accepted. Although Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was proud to tell the audience at the DNC how proud he is to stand up to hate, because of him, the bipartisan Anti-Semitism Awareness Act that would alleviate the concerns that I and Jewish students on college campuses have has yet to receive a floor vote on the Senate. That is a direct response and a direct result of Chuck Schumer and the Democratic leadership in the Senate. It will be difficult for me to forget the House Judiciary ranking member, Jerry Nadler, falling asleep as I gave personal testimony of my experience of anti-Semitism. During our congressional roundtable with the House Committee on Education, ranking member Democrat Bobby Scott similarly used the opportunity to criticize House Republicans for focusing on anti-Semitism. Tellingly, the overwhelming majority of Democrats on that committee did not show up. It was painful to watch my own Democratic elected officials, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, who I voted for in 2020, Ayanna Pressley, come to Harvard, come to Columbia and other campuses to give encouragement and show solidarity with encampment leaders, the same leaders who followed me for 3 weeks on my way to class, who recorded my movements. I didn't want to say these things publicly because I want to work in a bipartisan fashion. But with the election in less than 60 days, it is clear that I can't remain silent. House Speaker Mike Johnson, House Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith, they have actively sought to meet with me and other Jewish students to discuss practical policy solutions. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, has not. I can count on one hand the Democrats, my own party, who have done the same. I tried repeatedly to encourage the White House to meet with Jewish college students to discuss the crisis of anti-Semitism on our campus. I have never once received a response. It is no secret that Harvard University, in their bid to deny Jewish students the equity and justice they deserve, is hoping for a Democratic takeover of the House so that Speaker Johnson's alacrity in investigating anti-Semitism will cease. Just this month, it was House Republicans who sent letters to 10 high-profile colleges asking the universities to provide specific details on what measures or what policies would be implemented to protect Jewish students. Not one Democrat signed onto those letters. The current administration, contrary to the urging of so many of us students, have not mobilized the Department of Justice, the National Guard, or even the Department of Education in any meaningful way. I did not want to say these things for 10 months because I wanted to hope and pray that my party would change. For 10 months, I have tried to appear either nonpartisan or bipartisan. And in fact, contrary to the Trump campaign and to the Republican National Convention officials, I ad-libbed a significant amount of my speech at the RNC, taking out any line that explicitly endorsed Donald Trump. Because I wanted to show the Democratic Party, my party, that they could and they should and they must support Jewish students. However, elections are binary choices. It is clear to me that in this zero-sum game of electoral politics, I cannot, for the first time since I started voting, even though I registered to vote as a Democrat since the day I turned 18, I cannot support the Democratic nominee for president. Last week, the Trump campaign invited me and other college students to sit front row as President Trump not only condemned anti-Semitism, but clearly articulated the policies he would implement to combat it. I have asked repeatedly the Harris campaign to do the same. The Harris campaign delivered no such policies or invitations to any Jewish student ever. And these policies are common sense. They include deporting non-American students who abuse the foreign visa system and break American law, which is already American law. These include the withholding of federal funds and the non-accreditation of universities that violate Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. These include a strong stance against the inherently anti-Semitic, anti-American, and indoctrinating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that across broad swaths of American society. And these, of course, include an ironclad commitment to the security to the State of Israel, a complete repudiation of any arms embargo, and the return of the American hostages at whatever cost. These common sense, once bipartisan policies are not a hallmark of the Harris campaign. They are not featured on any campaign platform. This led to the almost carnival-esque environment at the DNC, where many Jewish attendees, myself included, were told blatantly contradictory information by the slew of campaign surrogates. Would Harris rejoin the Iranian nuclear deal or not? How specifically would she return the American hostages given Hamas rejected a ceasefire? What policies would she implement to combat anti-Semitism? We did not receive a single clear answer to any of these questions. So I'd like to close by speaking directly to the American people. I did not support Trump in 2016. I did not support Trump in 2020. Hell, I did not support Trump 6 months ago. Nobody's perfect. But let me tell you this. On October 7th, the United States of America and the land of Israel began attacking our enemies' air, sea, and land. And we, Jewish Americans, have a different yet equally important battle. We will fight our adversaries on the streets. We will fight them in the court of law. We will fight them in the court of public opinion. We will fight them in academia. We will fight them in the classroom. We will fight them in the halls of Congress. And come this November, we will fight them on the ballot box. The Democratic Party has taken the Jewish vote and Jewish voters for granted for far too long. And come this November, I will be supporting, I will be endorsing, and I will be voting for President Trump. Let's fight and let's win this November.
Tough act to follow. Here I go. Good morning. My name is Melissa Siegel, and I've never voted for a Republican for president in my life. And I'm older than I look. I visited Israel for the first time in 2006. I shopped at Machane Yehuda. I trekked up to the iconic site of Defiance at Masada and stood in the exact same spot where the legend says the Maccabees fought. Israel is a magical place. Maybe it's the daily prayers that live inside of the stones like fossils in a riverbed. I felt God when I was in Israel. Never, in the farthest reaches of my mind, could I have imagined the horrors that occurred on October 7th. On October 8th, while the spilled blood of Jews was still wet on the ground in southern Israel, Democrat socialists marched in city streets screaming their anti-Zionist rage. That was the day I began to shed my thick Democrat skin. I no longer recognized my political party. I never thought of myself as a Zionist before October 7th, and I deeply regret that it took this horrific event for me to realize that, yes, I am a Zionist. I am a loud and proud Zionist. I began to see the world without the tinted filter of MSNBC. Yeah, imagine that. In the weeks after October 7th, I watched as Trey Yingst reported from Israel. I could feel my brain glitching. I thought, wait, isn't Fox News bad? That's what all the Democrats always said. Fox News can never be trusted. That's when I started to realize I had been heavily manipulated. Yeah. I was late to the Middle East geopolitics party, and I had a lot of catching up to do. So I started digging deeper into the issues to learn more. I found out that Trump had immediately frozen all funding to UNRWA, and Biden had immediately reinstated this funding. That's when I learned that Trump issued an executive order enforcing Title VI against prohibited forms of discrimination rooted in anti-Semitism, in addition to all the other forms of discrimination already prohibited by Title VI. I learned that Trump froze Iran's assets and upheld sanctions so that they could not afford to conduct terror attacks via proxies. Under the Biden-Harris administration, billions have been unfrozen in sanctions waivers, freeing up funds for terrorist proxy militias like Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah. I started watching videos on X from the southern border showing tens of thousands of immigrants walking into the United States with astonishing ease. I wondered why Democrats weren't talking about the border at all. I realized I had been missing a whole lot of information from only listening to MSNBC. It took a few months to get myself fully deprogrammed. That's how intense the years of indoctrination were. It was constant propaganda about how awful Republicans are. Yeah. It was nonstop, unrelenting hate for Americans who support Trump. I finally saw that we were all being lied to about President Biden's health. After the debate, when it could no longer be denied, I resented the Democrat establishment for treating us like we're stupid by covering up such a serious health issue for so long. After the terrifying assassination attempt on President Trump's life, I watched online in disbelief as Democrats shouted fake and staged before anyone even knew if people had been killed. I was embarrassed by the people I had called my side. It was time to get honest with myself and take responsibility for my own participation in dehumanizing half of America. I searched my X account for MAGA. I had used some pretty awful phrases. Things like racist, ignorant, hypocritical. And I felt ashamed because I now see how racist, ignorant, and hypocritical the Democrats are. I started to get to know some Republicans in real life, and guess what? They were nice. They were respectful. They listened to my story and welcomed me into the tent. I heard Trump when he proclaimed, if you're Jewish and you're voting Democrat, you need to get your head examined. Well, you know what? If Jewish Democrats are offended by that, good. They need to wake up, because if Kamala Harris is elected, they're going to be finding out the hard way that being a liberal Zionist is a thing of the past. It is a luxury that diaspora Jews can no longer afford. A Kamala Harris administration will ensure that Zionism is marginalized. A Kamala Harris administration will say one thing about Israel that sounds good, but will do something else entirely to appease the pro-Palestine socialists who have come to exert noticeable influence over the Democrat Party. I am voting for Trump to keep America's Jews safe from the vicious hate of the pro-Palestinian movement. Yeah. I am voting for Trump to ensure that America's alliance with Israel remains unshakable. God bless America, and Am Yisrael Chai.